you stayed for a bit longer, would you be open to that? So that is in there in the policy if you wish it, but the policy also, I think, indicates that after 3 terms of 3 years, generally in the ordinary course, you probably wouldn't be reappointed, but doesn't preclude it.
Yeah, well, it seems weird you'll either have it one way or another. Why put it in if we're going to ignore it? In terms of the 3 threes, why have the policy if we're not going to enforce it, is my question. You either have it blank as Michelle's talking, or it confuses me to have that, and then we say, oh, but there's all these exceptions. That's my point.
Yeah, look, I just think really there should be a finite time where it ends, and whether that's 6 or 9 years, because in knowing that the directors will take action, and plus the shareholder will, to ensure that they've got continuity and people coming through, they're planning ahead and looking for when they're looking for that director, that they are looking for a chairman at some point, or rather than people who are going to contribute to the skills matrix. So I think there shouldn't be an infinite time, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, look, I think it's just let's discuss and make a decision on that point. Obviously, there's different views, so when it comes to bring in front of council, we'll make the decision then. And we'll just highlight that that's something that there's...
Yeah, quite right. Your Worship, it was there as an option for you, and we'll note it as a key question as to whether you wish to have a hard finish line at 9 years, or whether you wish to give yourself, in terms of the policy, that option. So we'll note that, a bit like the minimum and maximum number of directors. We'll note those as well as key questions for you to form a view. Where was I up to? The board composition. So again, we note that the comments that were made on that, and the board composition really comes down, I suppose, inside a CCO to the appointment of elected member directors, because you're assuming that those were, in your composition, the question really is, are you going to permit or enable elected members to be directors? Some constitutions of CCOs preclude it, some require it, and some are open about it. So that's a decision for you, and it really is, I think, in terms of board composition, the key issue. Do you wish to have elected members as directors? Maybe yes or no is kind of the decision. But here we'll note that in the report when it comes to council. But you might wish to have some discussion on it.
So the current arrangement is that we have 2 elected members, but we've
just got one.
About
TDHL.
Right.
Oh, yeah. For another.
Yeah. And so we're actually, and that really depends on the crop of councillors at the time, and whether they have got the skills set that would be required. Potentially 2 maximum, but we are by potentially moving back to 1 by taking on another independent. So I sort of tend to think that's actually not a bad sort of mix there. The key to having someone on the board from the council is to represent the shareholder, which we are, but it's also important to have the skills around the table that actually contribute to a successful and active, making money or being prudent, doing the right thing on behalf of the shareholder for the ratepayer. And in the past, potentially, we actually haven't had those skills sitting around because we've had too many councillors sitting at the table, potentially not having the skill set to contribute to a couple of independents. So I see that as actually quite a positive move, going more the independent way and getting those skills.
I think we probably need to tidy up or contemplate the situation we have at VT, and I don't have a problem with it, but where a sitting board member then becomes an elected member, and I know they're not there as an elected member, but they are an elected member, and we just need to tidy, I think that needs tidied up. I'm not saying I don't think Stacey should be off VT, but potentially it could cause an argument down the track, so we need to, I think it needs to be a bit more along the lines of TDHL. It must be at least one elected member, the rest of it could be either or something. It just needs tidied up.
I'd go as far as, if you go back to Martin Jenkins' report in the direction of travel, I would take out any number of elected members and just replace with the shareholder has the right to appoint an elected member. And circumstances may change, so it's not actually strictly one or two or a number, because, you know, we're talking about constitutions. We don't want to change them, you know, every other year at the AGM. So let's future-proof them so we don't need to.
Thank you for that. Brian Gaynor, who passed away probably a year or so ago, but was a pretty well-respected financial journalist, you say that the appointment of the directors was one of the most critical decisions that a company could make in terms of its success. So the board composition is a really important part of it. And when you're a CCO, of course, the community often doesn't see that distinction between the legal entities. So we'll note that discussion and bring back some options for you when we present the paper. Term of appointment, I think we've traversed that, understand, as it was said, it's really a decision about whether you want 3 times 3 and a hard finish, or whether you want to be able to have the flex to go and say to someone after that 9 years, or are they going to carry on, and that's a decision that you can make at that time. Appointment of chairperson and deputy chair discussed by the VT representatives. I think, again, it's a decision that you will have an option to make. You shall or may. It'll be your call. But again, thinking about that, who appoints the chair and deputy chair of the boards. But we've, I think, picked up that point. The next one is directors' duties, because normally a director must act in the best interests of the company. What the provision will enable shareholders to do, and it has, directors to do, and it has come up once or twice, is for a director to consider acting in the best interests of the shareholder, which can sometimes be a bit different when you're a council. The interests often will coalesce or align, but not necessarily, and it's to give a right to the, if you are an elected member in particular, this has some relevance, you may say, actually, I need to think about this in the best interests of the shareholder, keeping in mind the sort of special nature of the relationship between a council and its CCO. So that provision will remain, and we would certainly do that. You will see that the draft new constitutions require council approval before undertaking certain activities, and that's really to ensure that the shareholder, on important matters, has some oversight and visibility, mindful that, of course, it is the community that ultimately these companies are here to serve. So that's what that is there. I don't know if there's any comment people want to make on that. We just think that that's quite important to have that. Again, tidy up, makes it clear. The interested directors just states that because you're a ratepayer, you're not interested in a transaction. Otherwise, it would become pretty problematic for a director of a company. A CCO, they'll be interested in every single transaction. So simply making that clear. Conflicts of interest, they're something that increasingly gets scrutiny, and there's an increasing expectation that there will be visibility of the disclosure and of the management of the conflict. So having these provisions is important. And the last one is the indemnity. There are no change, but it authorises the company to indemnify and effect insurance for its directors. You do need a constitution in order to do that. The has to be written into the constitution, so it's quite an important point. And for directors, I'm sure they look at it and go, that's the sort of provision we would expect and want in there. We want to be able to effect insurance for ourselves, given the responsibilities. So that's a summation of the comparison between the old and the new. Got those key points around composition, minimum of number of directors, the appointment of directors, and the term, and we'll ensure those are highlighted for decision in the report that comes back to council. Any further questions, comments? Oh, thank you for that. We'll go and prepare a report. As I said, the idea being that these will take effect from the AGMs early next month, which is really the intention of it.